Hi guys, it's John, and tonight I wanted to do something a little different than what I usually do, which is a music rip, update, or a clip from Tales. So tonight I wanted to do, in the tradition of Halloween, a movie review. One that ties into Halloween for me, at least. And the movie I'm going to be reviewing is Violent Shit. This was released onto VHS from 1995 under Burning Moon Video. Burning Moon Video is an American distributor that distributed throughout the 90s a lot of German stuff and a lot of shot-on-video stuff. They're still around today distributing DVDs, and they have a website up, actually. At least it was up for a while. I'm not sure if it's still up. They might have lost the domain. Burning Moon, along with Violent Shit, also released Vampire Femmes. Violent Shit is Burning Moon number 1, BM001. Vampire Femmes is BM20014. So they did release a lot of stuff. I know they also released Blood Hunger, something like that. But they released a lot of shot-on-video stuff, and a lot of stuff made for video. Now, Burning Moon Video ties into Dead Alive Video. As you see on the back of this Burning Moon Video box, this is Vampire Femmes. The website that's listed is Dead Alive. And Dead Alive, one of their earliest releases, number 17, was the movie, The Burning Moon, which is a 1992 shot-on-video horror film from Olaf Ittenbach. He's notorious for directing the 1997 gore film, Prometheus, Lord of the Living Dead. I'm not sure if it's his company or if he is just a big, part of it, and they used the name of his movie for the company names, but I'm not sure. He's still around. He's still making movies today. I know one of his most recent one was called Dark Divorce. I've heard that's pretty good. He puts a lot of gore in his films. But we're talking about Violent Shit. Violent Shit was directed by a filmmaker called Andreas Schnaas, with 2 A's, I believe. Andreas Schnaas was a filmmaker who started around, well, when he was a small child making cheesy gore films. I think those were Super 8, but I don't remember. It was in an interview somewhere. He talked about them. He's German. He made these films in German, and they're all in German language with subtitles. Violent Shit, which was 1987, was his first actual feature film. Well, not film, it was shot on video, and it was just a slasher movie. The film is most notable for, well, not really being, a movie, and being more of just a gag reel of cheesy death scenes. Which I like. It has a killer. It doesn't really tell a narrative, but it does have killings, which is what a slasher should be. It has to have killings, but most slashers do have stories of some sorts. If Friday the 13th had just been the killings, it would have been pretty boring. There is a lot of boring stuff in Violent Shit. There's a lot of driving scenes, a lot of stolen music, that was actually recorded on set. It wasn't put in post. Some of this music was Red Red Wine. I forget who did that, but stuff like that, and a lot of metal songs that I'm not sure what they were, but they probably weren't made for the film because they were listening to it on the radio, and it was very clear that it wasn't put in on post. So they didn't have the rights to any of this music, which is probably why so far it hasn't had a DVD release in America, though they're planning on one, but it probably won't be the best of quality. Either that or it'll just be a bootleg because you can't get the rights to this music. Violent Shit opens with a small boy playing outside, and one funny thing about these opening credits is they go on for so long. It's shot in slow motion with a bad video effect, and it really shows. This is probably the longest opening credit sequence I've ever seen for a shot-on-video movie, and it kind of makes sense. The movie itself is 75 minutes, and most of it is killing and driving, so you need to pad out the running time. So they thought, make the opening credits longer, which they did, and it's just really boring. Usually I don't even pay attention to any of the names, because they're mostly jokes. The killer in this movie's name is Carl the Butcher. His son was in the later sequels, and that's where the mask comes from. It comes from number 2. The mask on the cover is not shown throughout this entire movie. It was only until number 2 when the mask was actually shown on video. So the cover is pretty misleading, actually. You'd think you'd pick it up and you'd see the cover, and you'd think, okay, we got a killer wearing that mask. We don't. What we get is a guy with just some warts on his face walking around. It's pretty embarrassing, but you can tell they just really didn't have the money to make any of the effects convincing. The death scenes are pretty cool. We get a woodcutter, or whatever his job was. He never really says. He kind of complains about his job, but he doesn't really tell what the job is. He just says, oh, this job. He actually says, this shitting job. I don't know what that means, but it must suck for him. He gets cut in half with a, it's not a chainsaw, it's more like a head clipper, something like that. He gets cut in half, and then he gets pulled in half. The death scenes really linger. Unlike Friday the 13th, where they die and then it just quickly cuts to the next thing, these really linger. The killer just mutilates these people, which is pretty cool. It's a lot different than some of these other slashers where you get the death scene and then something next. These linger on really long. But that's pretty cool about this movie. Interesting note, the second movie has the same exact cover art as the first one. Both were released by Burning Moon the same year, 1995. And they have the exact same cover art, other than the exception of there being number 2. So they were obviously just made as a two-parter. If you were to look at them, you'd think they were come in a two-part set. They really weren't. They're two completely separate films that were released separately. So there's that. There's not really that much else memorable about the film other than the death scenes. There's a lot of nudity in this, which is, I think would be, well, the whole reason of having that in your film is, you know, sex appeal. But it's kind of gross here. Most of it is involved in murder. So there's nothing really to like about the nudity in here. The kills, like I said, are entertaining. They linger, but the effects are really cool, and they're pretty bloody and violent. They don't hide. I don't think there's any kills that are off-screen. And if there are, they show the aftermath. There's no implied death in this film. Unlike a lot of these lower budget films, this does have some dialogue, but it doesn't tell a story. It's just people talking about random stuff. The VHS copy has horrible subtitles. You can barely read them. They're more of a distraction, really, and the characters aren't saying anything too important, so it's kind of pointless having them. You might as well just leave them out, and I would never have noticed. They're just distracting. The killer never says anything, and no one ever says anything that moves the plot along. At the end, the killer starts to go crazy, which is very strange. It's sort of like a montage where he's running through the woods, starts peeling his face off, and there's shots of a church just flashing by, a bunch of church footage, which is pretty interesting. It's like a symbolism but it makes no sense here. The rest of the film is a gory horror slasher, and then there's just random symbolism, and the killer has no character. He doesn't say anything. He has no point of killing, other than a scene where the devil tells him to kill. But that's it. It's just random flashes of church, and then there's Jesus on the cross, and he crawls inside of his stomach. There's a bunch of blood, and then he gives birth. A small baby head starts to come out through his stomach. He starts peeling his guts away. It's pretty gross, but it doesn't make any sense. But I like that about it. It's so surreal and just out there that you don't really care. You're watching it, and by this point, you've seen so many people get killed, so much blood, so much just random stuff going on. You really don't notice. It sort of all blends together. So I like that. It gives it a memorable feel to it. The first Violent Shit movie is actually completely on YouTube, uncut. You do need to be old enough to watch it. It is pretty gory. So I wouldn't have reviewed this other than it's my Halloween costume. From part 2, of course, I'm going to be wearing that mask. Homemade. I had to cut my fingers all up working with sheet metal. So this does tie in for Halloween for me. So that's my review. If you want to check it out, go on YouTube. It should still be up there. And if you want to get a VHS, the VHS usually sells for around $30 or $40. I got mine for $30, uncut. All sides are there, top's there, and pretty good shape. Usually it sells for around $30, but mostly $40 or $50. If you can get lucky, you can get for $30. Number 2 sells for $30 most of the time, but number 1 is pretty rare. Number 1 was also released on 2 different VHS releases in Germany. Both are large clamshells, and both are extremely rare. The very first red release being the rarest. The second was a green release, and then the third was the one I have. I'd love to get those releases, but for now, the standard American slipcase will work for me. So, this has been Johnny, horror VHS music, or Video Vendetta. My first video review. We'll see how this does. If you don't like it, let me know. Let me know how I can improve, what you want me to change, and we can make this work. So, that's been Johnny. See ya.